I carry a vibration is the best way to describe it. Like I carry a vibe, and the vibe is joy. And that joy kind of comes through, especially in the masculine space, in the place of be who the fuck you want to be, right? Like, can you be that?
Let's impact some men today. I think we're gonna do a great job. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Modern Man Podcast, where we connect men in pursuit of their potential. Join us as we embrace discomfort, cultivate community, and put wind in each other's sails. If you're ready to take your personal and professional growth to the next level, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And don't forget to check out the Noble Knights Mastermind Group, where you'll find the support, accountability, and mentorship you need to achieve your goals. Join us and become a part of a community of like-minded men on a mission to improve themselves and elevate their capacity for life. And I'm excited to get some wind in our sails today, coming out of Austin, Texas, founder of the Unbreakable Man, Dr. Dave Cohodes, on the podcast. Dave, what's going on, brother?
What's going on, man? I'm honored to be here, my friend.
Oh man, it's an honor to have you. And before I jump into the conversation and really kind of unpack our story for the audience, I like to step out of the way, let the guest kind of take over the podcast, introduce themselves in their own words, give a little bit of their backstory, how we got here today, what we do. Because I could say the title, but that just shows the end game, right? We want to know the blood, the sweat, the tears, the ropes, and the gears that go into who makes Dr. Dave Cohodes who he is. So please, man, take the mic and hop in.
Yeah. So when I started my career, I was in the United States military. This is way back in the day, like 2000. I joined in 2000, before 9/11. Everything shifted post 9/11. Went to combat, went to war, came home. Then wanted to finish college, get a degree, got into chiropractic, met my girlfriend, then became my wife, and started my life, and everything was going really, really well up until about 2015, when I started realizing that I wasn't living life for me. I was living life for everyone else around me, and I was still very people pleasing. I was approval seeking. I was, getting into these bouts of burnout. I was starting to experience panic attacks, anxiety. I would always have, stomach issues, feel like I would have this like knot in my throat at all times. And, when I was, in that moment, you're kind of in this moment of depression and trying to figure out what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? I remember thinking, and I was journaling with a friend, a business friend of mine. And she's like, well, what would you do? Like, what would you do if you could just do anything you want? I was like, I think I would coach men. And I'm like, I don't even know why that came out of my mouth. And it was so interesting because during that time, I was still very much in my dark night. And what took me 7 to 8 years to figure out, I've been able to put into what we call the Unbreakable Man experience. So in 3 days, we can completely transform your life inside and out, and helping guys, what I like to say, take command of their mind, body, and emotions so that they can show up as the sovereign king that they truly are. And, when I was going through all that work, that was the word doctor, I guess, in front of my name. I'm a chiropractor by trade. And though I don't see patients anymore, I guess I do technically, but I'm not really seeing many. I kind of put that behind me. I really knew that my calling on this planet was to help people really truly take command of their inner world and command their life like a king. And when I was able to figure out how to implement and do that, that's really when everything changed, man. It's been powerful.
You mentioned dark night. What's a dark night, man?
Yeah, dark night of the soul is when you feel so separate from that which you truly are. And what I mean by that which you truly are is your higher self, your soul, your spirit, your connection to source, God, universe, whatever, whatever word is right for based on your beliefs. There's ultimately one true knowing of self, in this life, in this cosmos, and whatever word you want to put to it, we're all trying to figure it out. It's like the quantum physicists are, calling it, the field, the consciousness, Christians are calling it Jesus, and, Muslims are calling it Allah. It's like we're all craving something deeper within us. And it's we're at a time right now where we realize materialism and separation, division, especially division amongst individuals, peer groups, you name it, in
Mhm.
America, that, I see it even in mainstream. They're trying to divide us as individuals and try to rope us into sort of these different factions of like, well, you're a trans man, and so you're going to go over here, and then you're a white man over there, and then you're a black man over there, and then like we're all separate, and it's like, yeah, but we're all the same, we're all one, and we can honor each other, and find ourselves. So it's a long story for, the Dark Night was when I felt so separate from myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know which way was up. I was completely depressed, feeling absolute anxiety at all times. I was totally out of command. I was like not in command. I was the opposite of command. I was like just getting thrashed by life. And I was like looking for me. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's where the Dark Knight comes in.
Yeah, no, I picked up on that because I think it's such a relative journey that so many men go through,
Yeah.
and it could be something as simple as, you just we're really good at following a playbook, right? You follow the
Mm,
playbook, right? Go to school, get good grades, and then I get a good degree that's going to make good money. Maybe I went into business, and I either held on to these things because I thought that's what would make me whole. That's what would make me a man. The car,
yeah.
the women, things like that. We pursue these things most often prescribed to us by the world,
Yeah.
which makes us think that we want it. And then when we get it, we wonder why we still feel the way that we feel, because we still
Mm,
have to spend the time with who we are, right? We
yes.
still have
Yeah.
ourselves
There you
at the end of the day.
absolutely.
So the Dark Knight really picked up on that because it is such a relatable journey that I think so many men find themselves in, right?
Yeah.
And it's small, and it's very subtle in how it happens.
Yeah.
The chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they're
Yeah.
too strong to be broken.
Yeah.
So
Have you
what
gone through
was
yours?
that? Oh
I know you're just about
man,
to ask me a question, but sorry, I just threw it back at you.
you did throw it back at me. I remember I remember laying in a hospital bed watching
Ooh,
morphine drip into the tube
there it is.
when I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis,
Mm,
blaming the world for where I was in life.
yeah.
Very scarcity mindset, very victim mindset. And I remember being in the hospital bed and the doctor asking me what my diet was like. And I was eating fast food 3 to 4 times a week while my parents had a home cooked meal for me at home. Um, all these things where I would say that's the first dark night that I had where I realized, and I think my video froze uh, on the with my thumbs up, but that was my first dark night where I realized in that hospital bed I was to blame for where I was. And though I was just a billing clerk at a law firm, drinking my sorrows away on the weekends, going broke, I knew I was capable of getting a TV job. I knew I was capable of doing something different. So my
Yeah.
mindset changed that day when I left the hospital. Thank God, with my large intestine. And a year
Yeah.
later, I'm well, a month later, I'm snowboarding on top of a mountain, and a year later, I'm moving to a city 750 miles away from my first TV job.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily in a dark night now. I think I'm on a journey of becoming where
Yeah.
I'm more aware of the life that I crafted. And I think this is something a lot of guys go through in terms of you climb a ladder and you get to that ladder and maybe you realize maybe this isn't the ladder you want to get to the top of.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you
Yeah.
get a better view, or sometimes there's a great book, I think it's called The Dip, Seth Godin, where he
Mhm.
says most successful people, they get to a certain level and they realize what amount of work it would take to get to the next level or what to do the next step for, and you realize if it's worth it or not.
Mhm.
And then you pick a different ladder. So I think I'm in the process of kind of like your realization. Working with men is something that has pulled at my heartstrings for a long time. I love
Yeah.
what I do, but I'm feeling called someplace else. So I
Yeah.
think that's the process that I'm in right now. And I appreciate you kind of putting me on the spot because I did give you
Yeah.
the invite before the podcast saying, hey, you could ask questions too. No one's ever asked me that before. So thank
Yeah,
you.
man. Yeah, you're welcome. And that's, like we're all on the journey together. We all have this part of our humanity. We're all telling the same story, which is it's the hero's journey. It's we all go
Mhm.
through that experience of there's suffering, and yet we want to know, am I worthy of this suffering? And where we find that is when we find the solution within. And it's not even the external solution. It's the inner resolve. It's the new understanding, the you mentioned the wholeness that we now have that we can bring to the world around us and be a beacon of light for others, so that we know we didn't just suffer, for the suffering's sake. We actually earned our suffering, and we can then experience fulfillment in that suffering because we bring solutions to others who are suffering in the same vein. And so
Yeah.
yeah, man, sorry for putting you on the spot, but that's
No, that's
it's
awesome.
my job, man. This is what I do.
Well, on it, no, I appreciate it because I think that's a fantastic moment for us and for the audience to kind of witness that. But the thing about the suffering, like Viktor Frankl, when there's a why, you can withstand almost any how,
Yeah.
and knowing what you're doing it for is huge. And what you also mentioned was being able to take the length of your suffering, because I did a video a while back saying no, strength is necessary and pain is necessary, right?
Yeah.
The suffering is going to be part of life, but like the buffalo that run into the storm
Hmm.
rather than away from the storm, you can shorten the suffering, as you mentioned,
Hmm.
taking that whole length of that dark night, get us straight to the dawn, because I know it's darkest before the dawn, but
Yeah.
the sun's right over the horizon. So
Yeah.
how do you chunk that down for guys and help them experience maybe a shorter length of suffering?
Yeah, and kind of going back to the Viktor Frankl stuff, it sounds like you read that book as well, Man's Search for Meaning, which is an
Yeah.
incredible book. I highly recommend it for anybody that is like any human. It's like it should be mandatory reading. But what he talks about in that book is the sort of this gap between stimulus and response. And if in that gap, for instance, if that gap is too short, meaning that, like really, really close to each other, that's when we react. That's when we're triggered by something. Maybe it's, I'll give an example, like my son will do something and it'll trigger me. But really it's triggering something within me that needs to be seen, that needs to be felt, that needs to be experienced. And so if we can just get a little bit of a gap, just like a little bit of a gap there, then instead of reacting, now we can respond. And in response, you have command, you have freedom, you have power. That is your true essence
Mhm.
of power. When you are, and this is like where a lot of people talk about power. There's this misconception that power is like going out into the external world and like moving the chips in your favor. But in reality, true power is the ability to go within and have complete control and command of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. When you have command, regardless of situation and circumstance. And if we want to use Viktor Frankl as our example, meaning he was in a concentration camp during World War II. He,
Mhm.
almost died multiple times. He has incredible stories throughout the entire experience. It was like a 95% kill rate at Auschwitz. That's where he was. He was able to not only survive, but he was able to thrive because he was able to flip the script, and he understood that, like, as you described, with any why, there you will find a how. You will find a way to break through. And so, all that to be said, kind of full circle here, is like when you can expand that gap between stimulus and response,
Mhm.
inside of that is the wisdom that will unlock your soul. And what that means is, if you have a trigger, if you have an irritant, something that makes you angry, something that makes you sad, something that makes you want to run, maybe it's, more sales, maybe it's, okay, I'm going to start this men's group, or the Modern Knights program, whatever. It's like you're there and you're like, oh shit, like I got to see something within myself. And that is part of you, that dragon within, the demon within, whatever word you want to use there. I like oh gosh, who's the other? Joseph Campbell. Joseph
Mhm.
Campbell's where he talks a lot about ego and these things, and that ego is the shadow element of ourself that we need to see and we need to experience. And so the real work, like the true work of helping guys, kind of break through that to show up in the world as the man they want to be, is, okay, we're going to sit with that. Number one, you need to tell the truth. Like, absolutely, you got to tell the truth. Like, you got to be like so brutally honest with yourself, like the absolute truth, meaning like, my wife doesn't have sex with me because I'm not showing up as the man that I know I can be, right? So it's like, what's the absolute truth? And then you can observe it, be the witness, and then you can experience it. And it's in the experience that things start to move, right? Energies and emotions. And that's when, guys like will start to finally soften and surrender and get into their hearts and get out of their head. And they'll finally start getting in their bodies, and they'll start saying like, holy shit, like there's a lot of sadness in this. Like, and they've been pushing that sadness away for a long period of time because maybe they didn't feel loved by their mother, or they needed to act a certain way in order to get approval from their mother or their father, or their guardian, or who, by society. And when they're living for other people, they're not living for themselves, and so they're inauthentic. And so to find your true authentic self, it's a deep journey within the heart. And one of the reasons that I teach guys the way I do, it's I call it is truly somatic therapy. I mean, that's my background is in somatics, is going into the actual visceral sensation of what's happening. And can we just, like a king, can we observe this? Can we sit with this? Can we, with the courage of a warrior, can we be with this? Right? Like, can I be with this right now? And we get them there through, specific means. Like, I throw them in cold water, like ice baths. We do breath work. We do all these different modalities, but the modalities are just there to get to that one framework, which I just described, which is like, can I be with this, right? Like the challenge of life will present itself to you regardless. It will be there, as you mentioned, like the morphine drip, while you're watching it and being like, oh, fuck. Like, oh shit, man. Like, what am I going to do with this? And so that's a really important element. It's like, it's the courage of a warrior, and the compassion of, the truest sense of compassion you need to have for yourself and for the world around you as well. And I think that with those two things, your life can change.
If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Thayton here, host of the Modern Man podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals.
Check out themodernmanpodcast.com.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And beautifully said, man. Because you address that gap where so much can happen with a simple, just take a breath.
Yeah.
Just take a breath.
Just take a breath, man.
Because we don't realize how important that is. And I never realized how important that was until I really started paying attention to my breath. And diving deeper into the experience of what oxygen can do for the body. And
it's amazing.
I'd love for you to expand more on that, because that gap could I love the way you said is the gap is the way to unlock the wisdom to your soul. And when you focus on that breath, I think it could provide so much. So please share more of how taking that gap, taking that breath, paying attention to our breath can do so much.
Yeah. And I facilitate breath work a lot. And there's many types of breath work. So think of breath work almost like fitness. You can do CrossFit, you can do weight training, you can do running, you can do Zumba, right? With breath work, there's many forms of breath work. There's like breath of fire, there's somatic breath work, there's, box breath, there's all these different forms of breath work, all designed to guide you into a more cohesive state. And when I say cohesive, we are a living, breathing electromagnetic field. We are literally an electromagnet, right? We are that, right? So, and that pumps through the center of our being, which is our heart. And our heart has coherence to our brain and our gut. So our gut, our gut, our heart, and our brain all have neurons through them. And we know this, we've identified this. And when our heart and our brain are not in what's called coherence, meaning we're not on this rhythmic, pulse, we are out of alignment. And that's when we feel stressed. That's when we feel like, when we're in our head, these things, we feel distant, we feel distracted, kind of on the phone, like we're in our head too much. And so what that does is that dysregulates our nervous system. I'm just going to use that word for context. So in order to bring you back into a now moment, which is that powerful moment, which is you being in command of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, go into the breath using a simple breathing coherence technique where you could just simply breathe in for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds, and that will start the process of regulating your nervous system. So what I teach the guys when they're actually in the experience. So like I have an online program that, is very, like, I'm like super close to like, launching this, but and I teach all this stuff, but we started in person, and I love experience because words don't teach. And anybody that's even listening to this, they're like, man, this is really good, but go do it, right? Like go do what I'm about to tell you. Go like actually do what I'm about to tell you. Set a timer for 90 seconds, right? Like, first of all, take your pulse, just get an idea of your pulse rate so you can get a clear indication of where you're at with relation to your coherence based on your pulse. So if your pulse is high, and keep in mind, like, did you just exercise? Did you just walk upstairs? Like, I'm talking about like resting pulse rate. Get an idea of, like maybe you're in stress, fight or flight, your sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight or flight response, can be elevated. Set a timer for 90 seconds. Every 5 seconds, breathe in. So from 0 to 5, you're breathing in. And then from 5 to 10, you're breathing out. And you literally repeat, just like watch the timer. From 0 to 5, breathing in. From 5 to 10, breathing out. So it's breathing in, breathing out. And literally just repeat that for 90 seconds and just see what happens, right? Then take your pulse rate, do a check-in. What am I experiencing? What am I feeling? And then it's like, oh, something's different. Now, when you're in a very high stress moment, and you need to be, in more alert and awareness, I'm going to teach you a different breath pattern. But for the easiest way to get into coherence, to get into that observer mindset, that incredible now moment, just do that breathing pattern and it'll change everything. It'll absolutely change everything. Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. Tapping into that, because the ability to manipulate the body through the breath was first opened up to me when I jumped in my ice barrel with my Whoop band and I had the live broadcast, and the anticipation of it, my heart rate was at 120. I wasn't doing anything. I was just like so afraid to get in the water. But then in the deep breaths, I was able to get my heart rate down to like 86 and then even lower from that. And I was just thinking to myself, wow, in this water. And my wife comes out, she's like, how are you doing? And I'm like, I'm actually okay. Well, I'm not freaking out. I'm actually, I'm not going to say I'm comfortable, but I was able to get to a comfortable heart rate.
Yeah.
And that switches me because a lot of times we try and, at least myself, I try and think my way through things. I rely on logic, right? And we try and when we are trying to fix the mind, we ignore the body, when sometimes the body is the way to fix the mind.
That just period, end of sentence. Not sometimes, it is. The body is the direction to the mind. We think we're thinking, but we're actually experiencing the totality of the entire cosmos in this now moment, which is like a deep thought to think about, and don't like wrap your head around it, but just know that like every single now moment, there is this coherence of self. Like literally quantum physics has proven this, that like there is a collapse of the wave into the collapse of the wave into the now moment, and we are experiencing this. And so for us to experience it, it happens through the body. And men were told, for so long that, oh, don't feel your feelings are weak, don't share. Like there was never an opportunity for us to experience that which was that infinite intelligence within us. And when we are given the opportunity to do that, number one, there's a shedding, right? There's like this shedding process. That's, what we're starting to see with guys that are coming through our program at the Unbreakable Man experience. But there's like, once there's the shedding, there's this innate knowing of like, there I am, what? And that's why we use, and even with exercise, right? Exercise is not just for the body. We know that. We know that there are
Yeah.
chemicals being released from the muscles that affect your overall mental, emotional well-being. That is dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, the dose chemicals. It's like it's already known, right? And so
Yeah.
it's in and through the body, man. That's why I'm a somatic guy. Somatic is Greek for body, so it's you got it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, man.
Why is a rite of passage so important for men?
Yeah, yeah. From it's like rites of passage have been part of a tribal society for millennia, and going from an initiatory rite of passage, going from boyhood to manhood. And when we as men are tapping into something deep, something ancient, this visceral knowing within us, it comes with a great deal of responsibility. And I like to liken masculinity as fire. And fire is fierce, right? It can cook your house, right? Or it can cook your meal. It can burn the house down, it can burn the forest down, it can do a lot of damage. But when you understand how to wield fire, it brings so much life. It brings life force onto the land. It heats your home, it cooks your meal, it provides the structure and that which is necessary for life to actually exist. And so a rite of passage is more than just, going out for a weekend and, kind of doing, yelling in at trees in the woods. It's guided in context to help you discover who you truly are, which is, you've been living a life that you are not, especially in American society. We're seeing this. You're living a life that, you're not, and you want to know who you truly are. Go through a process that is very, very challenging, and you will uncover all of the reasons that you are not living up to your potential. And like you were describing The Dip, right? That book by Seth Godin. And I use that because everything is in a rhythm, right? Like, let's say we're sitting on top of a mountaintop and we see the other peak, and that other peak is the next level of our potential. Maybe it's, let's say we're doing $1 million a year in our business and we want to do 10 million a year in our business. Well, that's a 10x growth. Well, in order for us to get from there to the next layer, to the next level, we have to fundamentally change who we are. We have to, like, the skill sets, the processes, everything has to change. And we're always going to go through a process in the dip. And it's in the dip where you meet I call it meet your demon, meet your dragon. And you have to be able to experience that and go deep within that. And so why rites of passage are so important? It's because life will give you a rite of passage. Just, when you become a father, as you mentioned, before this, it's like you and your wife are expecting, which is like amazing, right? That's an initiation that, into fatherhood. It's like, holy shit, I'm responsible for something other than me. Oh my God. Like,
I have a retreat coming up literally in 2 weeks as kind of like my personal rite of passage before another rite of passage. So
yes.
I'm with you. I'm with you. There's going to
Yeah.
be some experiences being had.
Yes. I love that. That's so vital. And so, the fact that you're doing that, I think you're forethinking these things, and, that takes a great deal of responsibility. And I know you feel that. It's like you feel the responsibility, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you, even by doing a podcast like this and helping men. And, you're like, oh dude, like I am responsible for everyone. Holy shit. Like, oh, like it's heavy. It's heavy. And yet, like, we carry this burden, when we are purpose-driven men. When you're a purpose-driven man, like, you carry the burden of the entire world on your shoulders, and you could do one of two things. You can let it crumble you, or you can stand up and be like, all right, I'm going to find my place and I'm going to do it. And yeah, man.
You hit on something huge, man. Like, and it's funny because even my wife would say, like, it's not rational what made me just want to take this on, right? Like,
Yeah.
when I first started this, it was a passion project. I was spending a lot of time, a lot of money on it, and it's just, I feel called in this direction. To why? Because I think we need to talk about this. This is the first, like, inception for me with Modern Man, was like, we need to have these discussions. And the discussions turned into my journey of finding out all these things about myself
Mm-hmm.
and how I've grown through this podcast. And it's never been about me, because it's always been more on, let's put everybody that I look up to on a panel and find out what the common juice is, the common flow is that we can all replicate. But there is no
Yeah.
replicating that. No
Yeah.
man is a template, nor will he ever be, right?
Yeah.
So it became, okay, how do I go on the journey of who I truly am,
Yeah.
day in and day out, who I hope to be,
Yeah.
looking forward to fatherhood. How do I want to show up as a father? Well, someone who is going to go through this retreat, someone who is thinking ahead and educating themselves and seeing a therapist to take care of any past traumas so I don't pass them on. These
Yeah.
things that are like, hey, okay, this is what the man I want to be would do. So this is what I
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
Um, and you mentioned finding out who we are truly. Who is Dr. Dave Cohodes truly?
Yeah. I mean, I'm the entire universe in this now moment. It's like there's a deep answer, and then there's like, I guess I could do my best to express that which I am. And in all fairness, I've done a lot of inner work. I've done a lot of deep work, and even came out of a recent ceremony where I just went even deeper and discovered that which I am. And really, I carry a vibration. Is the best way to describe it. Like, I carry a vibe, and the vibe is joy, and that joy kind of comes through, especially in the masculine space, in the place of be who the fuck you want to be, right? Like, can you be that? And so I carry both this kind of one side of deep compassion, empathy, knowing that like you are whole, you are who you want to be. And I carry this warrior energy in me that's like, let's fucking go. Like, don't hold back.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, I kind of carry this, like, the two hands of this, like, in a way, it's a bit of a balance, but it's something that I feel like is necessary. And so, who I am, right? It's I am all things and nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's like so it's kind of, I don't want to call it a cop out answer, but it's like in I just yeah, we all have our vibe, man. Like, we all have our
Mm.
thumbprint. It's like a like an orchestra isn't just the violin. It's every note that is played in the orchestra, and it creates a symphony. And so you carry a vibration, and I carry a vibration, and other men's coaches and other women's coaches and other people that are out there doing what they know that is right for them to find, themselves, and help others find themselves. It's like we all
Yeah.
carry a tone. It's like we're
Yeah.
just a string. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I'm loving the tone and I'm loving the vibe that you're putting out, man.
Thanks, man.
It's been fantastic. Um, how can people find you? How can people connect with you and learn more about the Unbreakable Man?
Yeah, they can reach out on Instagram. I'm pretty active on that at Dr. Dave Cohodes, DRDAVE, and my last name is COHODES. And so people want to reach out, they can they can learn more there. I also have a podcast called the Unbreakable Man podcast. People can tune in, listen to that. And lastly, if guys are ready to do it, right? If they're ready to go through a 3-day experience, and hopefully I'm not, if you have your own experience, I won't share, but it's a rite of passage that is designed to help you uncover everything that's in the way of who you truly are. And it's a powerful experience. We do it here in Texas, and just go to theunbreakableman.com, and guys can find that. And then we got some fun stuff coming out in the new year. Similar, we're doing masterminds and brotherhoods and, online, all this stuff. So trying to find guys, like, I got guys reaching out from Australia right now, and I'm like, I don't know how to
Nice.
help you, like, I gotta, so it's been forcing my hand in a real positive way to help guys on a more virtual, perspective. But yeah, it's been fun,
Yeah.
man.
Absolutely. And no, it's absolutely my pleasure to share that, because even going there with you, in terms of me and you are one. We are both kind
Yeah,
of, we're just putting out the same energy, and I don't want
yeah,
to
man.
stop that energy from flowing to the audience who is one with us as well. who
Yeah.
will receive that information and articulate with your platform more so than mine. I've always been just a curator with the mission of helping those that are listening. And if they see
Yeah.
your experience as the value that they're looking for, that is my pleasure to do so. And I hope
Yeah.
that they fully indulge and explore that. So I'll have the links in the show notes. I'll have that all connected below. But my last question, which is usually the heaviest one, which I feel like you'll have no problem answering this.
Yeah.
What is something that you've seen or something that has happened to you that shapes the way you view the world as a man?
Yeah. I think it was the Me Too movement. When that started coming out, I was chatting with a woman shortly thereafter, and I was in my height of depression, right? I was like, and I want to say the opposite, I guess the opposite of height, right? I was in my lowest low, and it was like right, I think it was like Trump was coming out, like it was like right before he was elected. And I was kind of talking about, my political views and these things, and she called me privileged. And I remember thinking like, fuck, like I was in this deep depression, and I'm like, you don't even know me. Like, and I was like, oh, we're all just projecting. Like we're all just like, then that was like very early before I could even put my word, like that word on it. What
Mhm.
has shaped me the most as a man showing up is seeing the amount of division that has come out from things like the Me Too movement, just all of this division, like just so much division that I knew that there had to be an answer to be a whole sovereign man and show up as the man that I know I am, which is joy, which is love, which is whole. And can I express that? Can I be all of that, my authentic self? Even when the proverbial, bullets in the comment section are firing, it's like, can
Yeah.
it be all of me? And yeah, just not give a fuck what other people think, realizing that everybody's expression is their projection if they haven't done the inner work. And
Yeah.
yeah, man, that would be it.
Oh man, that's amazing. Just being your true self in this world
Yeah.
and just being able to authentically show up like that is the gift I think a lot of our listeners could relate to wanting. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, man,
Thanks, sir.
and thank you so much. Founder of Unbreakable Man, host of the Unbreakable Man podcast out of Austin, Texas, Dr. David Cohodes. Thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Thank you,
It's been
bro.
an absolute pleasure.
It's been my honor, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to recap some of the gems you left along the way really quick for the audience. I know a lot of guys are actually in the gym while listening, or they're on the bike, or they're working out. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Go ahead and finish that last set. I already took the notes for you, but command over your life, right? You mentioned helping men find command over their mind, body, and emotion. And for so many of us struggle and hope to get to that level. We feel that dark night, that separation of which we truly are, of who we truly are. Maybe we're
Mhm.
trying to be somebody. We've followed the playbook. We've gotten to someplace in life. Everybody tells us we should be happy and successful. The wife, the kids, the white picket fence, the dogs, the 2.5 kids, all that. But you still don't feel happy because
Yeah.
you haven't chased that who you truly are. So you might
Yeah.
find yourself in your dark night. The stimulus to the response, that gap with the which the breath could sit within, could be the difference between responding and reacting. You don't want to react, you want to respond. And if you embrace that gap, which you could get by just inserting some breath in there,
Yeah.
you would find and unlock the wisdom of your soul, as Dr. David Cohodes said. And being able to tell the truth to yourself, tell the truth to
Yeah.
yourself, experience it so you can observe it and experience it in order to get true change. And as we hit the nail on the head, my favorite part of the podcast was the reaction with the end of the sentence. The
Yeah.
body heals the
Yeah.
mind. The
Yeah.
body heals the mind. And of course, doing the breath work, setting the timer for 90 seconds, check your pulse to start, do the breath in, out, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. After the
Mhm.
90 seconds, check your pulse just to understand the true power of that gap even more.
Mhm.
And then masculinity is fire. Meet your dragon in your dip and lean into that balance of being, I call it range, right? You mentioned
Yeah.
having that strength and that gentleness. I call it range. A man should have range. I want to
Yeah.
be I have that strength, but I have that peace, that gentleness, and the balance
Absolutely.
of when to use it. So this has been amazing. Thank you so much to the audience, guys. Thank you for making it to the end. Hit that like button and subscribe button. Send this to someone you know that can get value from it, and leave us a rating to let us know how we're doing. It's the only way that we can improve. And as we always say at the end of the episode, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without first the pain. Let's grow. Let's impact some men today. I think we're gonna do a great job.